how to overcome the waswas, and how to be a warrior and defeat the shaitan. طيب. First and foremost is you have to understand the nature of the waswas. Where does waswas come from? Waswas is going to come either from shaitan himself, or it's going to come from yourself, your mind. It could be an issue of anxiety, or people say OCD, or it can be a combination of the OCD with the whispers of the shaitan. طيب. So what's one of the first surahs that you learn in the Quran? قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ مَلِكِ النَّاسِ إِلَهِ النَّاسِ. Right? So the one who is the Rabb of the Nas, creator, maker, Lord, he who is worshipped, the God of men, the King of men, الَّذِي يُوَسْوِسُ فِي صُدُورِ النَّاسِ, he who whispers in the hearts of men. Who are you seeking refuge in, and what are you seeking refuge from, and why? In Allah Azza wa Jal, alone without any partner. From the shaitan. Why? الَّذِي يُوَسْوِسُ فِي صُدُورِ النَّاسِ مِنَ الْجِنَّةِ وَالنَّاسِ. Okay? You seek refuge min sharri. Okay, the whisperer who is al-khannas. He comes and then he leaves. Comes and leaves. Comes, retreats, etc. So the maker of shaitan is who? The maker of the nafs is who? Allah Azza wa Jal. So it only makes sense for you to go back to the maker. If you have a problem with any product or device or vehicle, you're going to call customer service. You're going to go back to the manual. You're going to find out the people who made the thing. What's wrong with the thing? It won't work. It doesn't work for me. It's not turning on. It broke. They know it best. So you have to return back to Allah Azza wa Jal, who created man, who created the mind, who created the heart, and who created the evil shaitan and the things in which he does of whispering and withdrawing min al-jinnati wa nas, from men and of jinn. So the first step is returning to Allah, seeking Allah's refuge, asking Allah to protect you, making the specific supplications of isti'adha and the general supplications, and being conscious and knowing that la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. I can't win unless Allah supports me. Secondly is that you have to practice self-control. You have to practice it. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a piece of cake, but you have to be, like I said, a warrior. You have to practice. Thirdly is that you have to realize is that adinu nasiha. Adinu nasiha. Okay? Allah talks about the believers, awliya'u, ba'dhum awliya'u ba'dhin. The believers, men and women, they're protectors of each other. So I would advise you to go back to professional help, Islamic help, and also clinical help. Sit down with a therapist who's qualified, a Muslim therapist, and explain your problems to them. Get advice from a specialist. And there's nothing wrong with a clinical specialist, as long as that clinical specialist is not telling you something against Quran and Sunnah. If it's just worldly things, medicinal things that don't harm you, that aren't haram, you take their expertise, and you take their advice. And there are many different layers to the mind. And you may not realize and know all of them with regards to trauma, with regards to things that have taken place, etc. My last piece of advice, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, is to avoid taking precaution, and avoid double checking, and avoid thinking, avoid having some type of intention. Many people, they suffer from this. Am I praying for Allah or not? Is my wudu valid or not? Did I make an intention for dhuhr asr? It's waswasa. Of course you making salah for Allah. Of course you're afraid of Allah. If you weren't afraid of Allah, you wouldn't care. You wouldn't ask a question. You would let shaitan ruin you. Would do whatever. Of course you have the insincerities there. It's a game and a trick of shaitan. It's time to pray. You go to the bathroom, you start washing up. What are you washing up in the bathroom for? Except for wudu. Except for Allah. So the shaitan, he tricks you. And one of the ways of you getting away from the waswasa is avoiding listening to the waswasa and feeding the waswasa. You cannot take a log, a stick, and throw it in a fire and then expect the fire to get smaller. It doesn't work like that. Okay? See that wood over there? All of that wood over there. How big would the fire become? The wood behind me, these trees. How fierce would the fire become? Log after log. So every time you listen to the waswasa, every time you give into it, every time you think, double check, let me do it again. Let me just be safe. Let me do it again. The fire goes stronger and stronger and stronger. The fire of your mind, anxiety, OCD, whatever a person suffers from, and the fire of the waswasa of Iblis. So these are some ways, and there are other ways as well with regards to overcoming these things and knowing the reality of shaitan and the power that he has and the power that he does not have. Indicate that shaitan kana da'ifan. Allah says that his plot is weak and is feeble. The plot of shaitan is not strong. But he does have certain powers. But he doesn't have all the power. Okay? So these are some practical steps. And Allah Azza wa Jal surely knows best.